Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. I've been spending the last week with the refreshed 2025 Acura MDX. This MDX continues with our span of having quite a few vehicles in this larger mid-size crossover class, trending toward the luxury side of things. This one you're looking at right here in front of us is the A-spec Advanced package, which is new for 2025. Now you can get the A-spec sporty styling along with some of the niceties of the Advanced package. For 2025, we've got a little bit of different styling, but more of the upgrades are seen in the interior with a new touchscreen infotainment system, the removal of the center trackpad, some changing up of the wireless charging area, and subtle improvements to make the MDX a little bit more of a desirable package. So after spending time with the car, I've got some takeaways, pros and cons of the vehicle, and I want to share them with you right now. Before we dive on in, this one you're looking at is about $70,000. And you can get a more expensive MDX. That is the one with the 3-liter turbocharged V6 option, the Type S version. This is the A-spec, meaning we've got the 3.5-liter naturally aspirated V6 engine, making just under 300 horsepower. This one is all-wheel drive. I believe that's the only way you can get the A-spec. And if you do want to see more on the car, check the link below. We've got a full dedicated review of both the 31 speaker and this 19 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. We've got a highway fuel economy test I shot earlier this week, and we've got an infotainment breakdown on the new infotainment system. First con in my book is a little bit to do with the pricing, but a very particular aspect of the pricing. So you can start getting yourself into an MDX for around $52,000, $53,000 after destination, which sounds very compelling, but you have to step all the way up to $67,000 for an all-wheel drive Advanced package in order to just get ventilated seats. Now, there are a ton of other features you're getting with that. Nicer interior materials, more sound deadening, the 19-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system. But if you just want cooling seats on your luxury mid-size crossover, you're spending about $15,000 over the base price. And for me, that just doesn't make much sense. This is 2024. You can get ventilated seats in $30,000 vehicles, and yet you're going to have to spend an extra 15 grand in an Acura to get ventilated seats. That's a little bit disappointing to me, because other than that, I could leave a lot of the aspects of this Advanced model. Looking through the pricing and specs here on their website, the technology package, which is nearly $7,000, just over $7,000 less, even with all-wheel drive, than the Advanced model, you're still getting leather-trimmed interior, you're still getting 12-way power front seats with lumbar adjustment, you're still getting the heat, you're getting 3-zone climate control, keyless access, leather steering wheel, power-adjusted steering column, ambient lighting, even though not quite as much ambient lighting as the upper-level models. So you're getting a ton of must-have features, so for them to leave out ventilated seats just seems like an odd middle finger to want you to spend an extra $7 grand up to the Advanced package. Next, still with packaging, this 19-speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system is good. It's very powerful. I'm not a fan of the tuning. There's way too much bass coming out of the rear subwoofer, and it's a very V-shaped audio. And I generally like a little extra treble, a little extra bass for my preferences, but this is way too much. However, the 31-speaker Bang & Olufsen system on the top-level trim is quite good. I still liked the previous ELS systems better in both trims, but the 31 speaker is really good. My downside, my con here, is the fact that most people are not going to step all the way up to the Type S model. A lot of people buying a type of vehicle like an MDX, they don't really care about sporty driving necessarily. They just want a nice daily driver vehicle. Maybe they've driven Hondas for a lot of their life, and they want more luxury type features than a Pilot's going to offer, but they don't need to be carving corners and getting 20 miles per gallon. However, they still might want the top sound system. So it's strange to me that you have to step all the way up to the $70,000+ high performance Type S model just to get the top level sound system. Other than that, you're stuck with this 19 speaker system, which is just good, not great. This con is probably going to sound remarkably petty, but we're dealing with a $70,000 vehicle here, so I feel like it's got to be said. The HVAC fans are too loud. For me, in a luxury vehicle, you should not be able to hear the airflow on level 1. And in level 2, you should kind of start to maybe hear it, but it should be flowing pretty significantly before you hear the fans. Listen to this when we turn it on. I'll turn off the AC too. Here's on, off, and then level 2. Again, I know it sounds petty, but those of you in this market, do you agree? I mean, if you get into something like a $70,000 BMW, you're not hearing the fans on level 1. It's one thing for my wife's Chevy to have a loud HVAC fan, but I don't want to hear the fan in an Acura on level 1. Bringing the engine to life here to get into our next con. No sort of hybridized option for the powertrain. And along with that, the fact that the powertrain really not that efficient. And when you're cruising on the highway, it's within reason for this class. You're getting about 25, 26 miles per gallon. That's what we saw in our testing, and that's also what the EPA is giving you. That's not a particularly impressive number, not embarrassing for kind of a luxury mid-size crossover like this, but the fact that at no price point and no configuration of the MDX are you getting any sort of hybrid, any sort of plug-in, any sort of electrification, that would go a long way into increasing your city fuel economy. And it's not like Honda isn't familiar with hybridization. They make some strong hybrid systems. Now, they don't do it in these higher horsepower settings, so I understand there'd be a lot that would go into that. And also, I understand the other side of the coin in that we've got a very straightforward and reliable, tried and true 3.5 liter V6 in this class. So I'm not saying they should go to some boosted up 4-cylinder that's going to have more reliability issues down the road. But I will say that compared to some of the competition, the fact that you can't just get a little bit of better city range and efficiency by having a plug-in hybrid, or not even a plug-in hybrid, just a regular hybrid, it's a bit disappointing. Lastly, when it comes to driving, throughout the week, I've experienced unfortunate shifts is the best way for me to put it with this car. It's a bit of a combination. It's the shifting jerkiness as well as unpredictability with the throttle control. I know that partially from my own experiences in the car, but also with my wife in the passenger seat. We've been just simply running errands with the vehicle, and she said to me, "Can you please not drive so aggressively?" I said, "Honey, I'm in normal drive mode. I simply gave about 1/8 of a throttle input right here, and the car drastically increased speed. It drastically accelerated." And it's strange to me that they haven't been able to dial in this 10-speed to be a remarkably smooth powertrain. I'm going to try to see if I can get it to have a few jerky shifts. It's kind of hard to tell on camera as we're driving, but for being a luxury type of vehicle and the fact that the interior is so supple and it's quiet in here and the rest of the vehicle is fairly refined, the transmission doesn't fit in that smoothness equation. And along with that jerkiness, we're going to see here when the vehicle starts back up from its stop-start, it's not a smooth restarting system. A lot of newer vehicles now have 48-volt hybrid systems, which means they've got, 4 times the power? And I don't know, maybe there's some sort of different multiplication factor there when it comes to the strength of the starter. But a 48-volt hybrid system can restart the motor, and you barely feel it. It comes back to life with a very pleasant subtleness, and all of a sudden the engine's running again. You barely hear or feel it start. Very, very different situation here with this 3.5 liter. Sometimes the starter's turning for about half a second before it starts up. Let's see what happens here when this light turns green. There, did you hear that? I mean, it's to get to the motor to start back up. That's not very luxurious. And you can disable the automatic stop start right here, but I, for one, I appreciate stop start. I mean, we were stuck at that light there for about 30 seconds. That's a good amount of fuel that we saved by having stop start. But when you're talking about a $70,000 luxury vehicle, to be hearing it start up like that, that's not very good. Let's do it again. Ready? So you see I've got about half a second there where the light turns green, and I'm getting back going again, waiting for the engine to kick in, and then it jerks me backward because it's kind of slamming into first gear. Starting off the list of pros for the MDX is a little bit of a combination between ease of use and physical controls. First off, walking up to the vehicle, we've got proxy sensors on all 4 doors. Now, admittedly, don't know if you'd get this in the base MDX, but I really appreciate that if you come up with a backpack or something child-related, you can reach to the back door, open it up, do what you need to do, unlock the vehicle, and same thing, if I'm getting something out of the back, I can tap that and lock it as I walk away. I don't have to go back up to the front in order to unlock the vehicle. Then you get inside and you're greeted with probably more physical controls than I can think of any other vehicle on the market right now, outside of maybe a newer Porsche. It's been a while since I've been in a Cayenne. But starting right over here on the left, we've got physical adjustments for our head-up display. 2 different ones, the tilt and the brightness. Physical adjustments for our screen brightness up here. Full steering wheel of physical controls. Not only physical, but very nice to feel. I mean, listen to this. Good, solid clicks. Very positive feedback there. We've got very solid controls for the turn signal stalks, the paddle shifters. Into the center, we've got physical controls for all of our climate. Up, down, clicks for the temperature, heated and ventilated seats, physical buttons for the shifter right here, yet it doesn't take up a lot of space. Physical volume knob and track selection. I love all of the controls. And yes, some people might miss the trackpad center console area here in order to control the touchscreen, but all of the physical controls to do so many other aspects of your vehicle is very refreshing, coming out of some luxury vehicles these days that force you to either have haptic controls or touchscreen controls. Stepping into that, next aspect is general ease of use. You start up the MDX, and most aspects of the vehicle are very straightforward and make living with and using the MDX easy. This new Android Automotive based system has some of the best voice controls on the market. Very easy to use, very large, easy to press buttons. It's a very quickly responding screen. We've got full Google Maps built in. Look at this. Say, for example, I want to do something like, hey Google, navigate to the nearest post office.
All right, post box. Let's go.
Got it.
Look at
United
that.
States
Whoops.
Postal Service.
Now, mind you, I've got a Google phone as well, so it's trying to do it there, but look how fast that was. Name me a car that's easier to use navigation than that. And you can use it for other things as well, such as, what's the weather like tomorrow?
Tomorrow in Irvine, it'll be sunny with a high of 77 and a low of 64.
I mean, that's so lightning fast. That's really impressive. So whatever modem they're using, connection, processor, everything, made to work really, really well. And I suppose this is kind of combining into 2 of my pros with the vehicle, both the infotainment as well as the ease of use of the car. So kind of got a triple in here with the fact that we've got physical controls, a great infotainment system, ease of use for navigating and managing all of the different aspects of the vehicle. I don't think there's been one thing throughout my time with the MDX that's frustrated me with how to use the car. Even getting into the back, for example, I mentioned the door controls out there, the proxy key. Getting into the 3rd row is simply one touch, fantastically simple and straightforward. Push that back, come into the rear, open up the tailgate. Mind you, that's a bit slow here in 2024, but low load surface, easy to fold rear seats. They go nice and flat. It's a very intelligently thought of system and just vehicle in general that works well and is easy to use. Before we get back in, let's go into my next pro, the styling. I think this is a handsome vehicle in this class. It's a bit difficult to make a larger blob sort of crossover vehicle like this look cool, but between the creases, the styling, the grille, the large Acura badge, the wheels, and on top of that, the abundance of colors with this vehicle. I mean, you look at the color palette and the build configure of the MDX, there's a lot of striking colors. And unfortunately, most dealers are probably just going to stock silver and grays, but look at this bright red interior, the good use of materials around, no piano blacks down there where you're going to touch. Yeah, you have piano black plastics up in front by the shifter, but you're not going to interface with those very often. Around here, the mixture of materials and the use and the feel of everything makes sense and is cohesive, works well, and looks good. Now, a lot of our pros have kind of combined into this general ethos of ease of use and pleasant to use. And that continues as well with the overall driving experience of the MDX. those people who regularly buy Hondas and have experienced Hondas and like Hondas, and for those of you who don't know, Honda is the parent company of Acura, there is a Hondaness to this vehicle, so evident. It's smooth, it's nice to drive, it's an interesting mixture between engaging and relaxing, and it's baked into the DNA of the car in both the way it drives as well as the way it feels. There's a tightness to new Hondas and older Hondas, but all Honda and Acura vehicles have this very subtle human primal satisfaction to them that most other brands do not have. And I think a lot of people who own and purchase Hondas throughout their lives and then move on to Acuras come specifically for that. Yes, this isn't as luxurious as a BMW or a Mercedes or a Lexus, but there are elements of this vehicle that are more satisfying to feel, touch, use, drive, interact with than any of those other cars. Turn signal stock, steering feel, general chassis tuning. It's all very, very Acura and Honda DNA based, and I love that for this car. It's such a satisfying vehicle to be in, and for me personally, as someone who would purchase vehicles kind of not in this class but down in the lower class, it's one of the main reasons why I would go toward a Honda Accord or a CR-V versus about anything else in the market. The CR-V and the Accord might not be quite as efficient as a Honda. They might not be as aggressively priced as a Hyundai Sonata or a Tucson, but that Hondaness to me is worth it. And we can argue all day about reliability because we don't know what this car is going to be like in 5 or 10 years, but people who love Hondas know that they're getting something different that they just simply can't get from any other manufacturer. And while for me that makes a ton of sense in something like a $35,000 CR-V, it does strike an interesting situation here when it comes to a luxury type of vehicle, because the beauty of a Honda and an Acura typically comes in its simplicity. It's almost this minimalism, IKEA sort of feel of doing more with less. And in a luxury vehicle, is less a good thing? And I don't know. I'm glad that it exists, but when we get back to something like having to pay $67,000 just to get ventilated seats, I don't know if I want less when it comes to my luxury vehicles. I think if I'm paying for that wow factor, I think I want more. But what's been beautiful about Acura is that they've always been kind of this weird niche brand, and I'm worried that they're starting to move a little bit away from that. We're seeing a lot of tweaks for this facelifted MDX that are trying to make it a little bit more appealing to the mainstream audience, the kind of more mainstream sound system brand, moving away from ELS and to Bang & Olufsen, and even the sound characteristics of the system, making it more generally universally appealing rather than particularly appealing to audiophiles. We're seeing a move to a more conventional touchscreen infotainment system rather than that sort of particular trackpad system that, again, might have not been as universally appealing, but for those few who really liked it, that's what they wanted. Acuras have always been in this weird niche of, okay, they're not as luxury as a mainstream luxury brand, but they're nicer and particularly more interesting than a lot of the mainstream brands. And now that we're seeing more and more brands like Mazda and like Acura and like Volvo leave this kind of weird niche car buyer situation and be more of a general appeal vehicle, I don't know. The MDX is trying to fight in a larger space, and I don't know if it's going to win that battle. I really don't. But I do like the car. I really do. I for me particularly, as a little bit of more of a niche buyer, I quite like it. So now it's time to put the MDX on the Daily Motor Leaderboard. Current leaders on the Daily Motor Leaderboard: Kia EV9, Hyundai Ioniq 6, and Toyota Tacoma. Those have all been there for most of the year so far, hanging strong. Now, we are technically ranking this A-Spec Advanced MDX, but I've also driven the Type S, so I'm going to sort of consider the lineup as a whole. I really do appreciate the MDX for what it is. but it's a really compelling, or a competitive class also. And there's just a lot about it that I don't know. It's tough. To me, it's fitting right into that sort of niche area of vehicle, right around here, around the Audi S6, BMW i5, Chevy Corvette E-Ray, Ford Mustang, where they're really good for just the right sort of buyer, but comparing against the entire landscape and the entire class, there's this is tough. This is tough. The fact that the one we're sitting in is $70,000 is what's really holding me back, because I'm looking at something like the Mazda CX-90, which is up in 11th place. That one was $10,000 less than this one, fully equipped. Even the BMW X5, the X-Drive 50 we drove, yeah, it was more expensive, but you could configure an X5 with the inline 6 to be around this price, and that was generally a nicer vehicle to be in. So I like a lot about the MDX, I really do, and I want it to continue to exist, but I think Acura is going to have to be a little bit more convincing with their pricing structure and be a little bit more true to themselves. Don't chase the competition. Be proud in who you are and what you offer, and don't try to offer what everybody else is offering. So thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you found something useful here looking at the MDX. If you do want to see more, check out our other videos, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.